Hi, I'm Kirsten Fuller, and today I'll be introducing my strategic plan for identifying the successful components of current programs aimed at increasing the attendance of Indigenous, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander students in WA schools. This information could then be used to develop an adapted program that could be applied in inter-regional secondary schools. My strategic plan is structured around Mertler's plan, consisting of 4 stages: planning, acting, developing, and reflecting. In the case of my strategic plan, the first step, planning, will be performed, while the other actions to be undertaken in the other 3 steps are theorised, as this is only a strategic plan. There are 4 steps within planning, and I will consider them in turn. The first is identifying and limiting the topic. I have limited the scope of the topic to Indigenous students attending secondary school in inter-regional Western Australia. This topic is within the time and budgetary requirements, assuming the research is performed collaboratively to reduce travel time and fuel costs. This research should be performed in collaboration and consultation with other teachers, elders, and employees. Also referred to as reconnaissance, the gathering information stage involves consulting peers and other interested parties looking for ideas and suggestions. It also involves reflecting on your own beliefs around this topic and the scope of the question to ensure it will investigate the topic that you wish to focus on. The data sets must then be sourced in the reviewing the literature step. I sourced a broad range of primary sources relating to Indigenous students. These provided copious amounts of data, which will be summarised on the following slides. According to the 2016 census, there were 75,076 Indigenous peoples in WA, with 24% of these peoples attending secondary school. Why is their attendance so important? Attendance has been linked to academic achievement, and NAPLAN results decline with any school absence, and this decline increases as the absences increase. The government aimed to close this gap in attendance between Indigenous and non-Indigenous students by 2018 in order to halve the Year 12 achievement gap between these students by 2020. However, the government is not achieving this goal, and attendance has actually decreased by about 2% between 2014 and 2018. While both attendance and the gap in attendance are worse in remote areas, this gap still exists in inter-regional schools, with this gap getting worse as students move from primary to secondary school. Additionally, the number of Indigenous students who have consistent attendance, with an attendance of 90% or higher, is very low, at 41% for girls and 38% for boys, which is a gap of 32% from non-Indigenous students. So with all this data reflecting a disheartening gap in attendance, what has been found to increase the attendance of Indigenous students? A culturally relevant educational experience should be implemented to help students navigate the hidden curriculum and engage with their learning. This would help recognise Indigenous culture and history and engage parents, carers, and the community in school life. Collaboration between governmental agencies and the Indigenous community in program design and decision-making processes is important in the development of these culturally relevant programs. The RSAS program was implemented in 73 schools in 2014 and has shown an increase in attendance in 49, with a decrease in 21. This program has been expanded to 84 schools in 2019, and an evaluation of this program has shown the strengths of the program to be elders who promote school attendance, a supportive school program with a range of support services, and a supported RSAS team, with the school being inclusive of culture and traditional ways of knowing. Significant variation has also been observed in schools of similar geography and socioeconomic status, and it was suggested that these differences could be attributed to internal school programs. In the governmental evaluation of the RSAS program, the data was based solely on opinion of the parents, and while important, it would be ideal to receive feedback from other members of the program about what may have caused positive and negative changes in the attendance of students. With regards to the schools with varying attendance but similar geography and socioeconomic status, these schools and their related programs must be identified and their internal school data on these programs accessed and analysed. Data related to the staff and students at these schools and associated with these programs should be collected. In the collection of data, many sources of inspiration for action research methods should be used. In order to enact the strategic plan, additional data will need to be collected. Additional data on the RSAS program in existing schools should be collected, including a focus group of the students involved and interviews with community elders and RSAS staff. New schools will be implementing the RSAS program this year, and the opinions of students in the program could be tracked through a Likert scale to track the changing opinion of students in the program throughout the year and match this to the changing attendance data. In the schools with varying attendance, demographic and attendance data should be collected to identify the schools. Any internal data the school has on its program can then be collected from the staff, and interviews can be conducted with relevant staff and students to identify the potential sources of comparative success in these programs. All these collections can be done collaboratively with RSAS staff and fellow teachers to reduce the bias in collection methods and to reduce travel times and costs, particularly in relation to the RSAS data. Any data collected should be treated confidentially, stored securely, and de-identified to provide the participants with freedom from harm, and data collected from students will require informed consent from their parents. During the planning and collection process, cultural practices should be considered and respected at every step. The next step to be taken in this strategic plan is to develop the plan of research, identifying potential contacts in the RSAS, potential colleagues to aid in research, and identify specific steps to be taken to collect the data, and to develop the interview questions and Likert scales. The data will then be collected and analysed and an action plan developed based on the conclusions of the research. The results of this study should then be shared with relevant parties, such as the RSAS staff, participating schools, and collaborating peers. The research process should then be reflected upon so it can be changed, refined, and repeated, as the process of action research is iterative and cyclical. This strategic plan aimed to identify the successful components of culturally responsive programs for increasing the attendance of Indigenous secondary school students, to adapt them so they could be implemented in inner-regional WA schools. This adapted program would be based on research and data, both qualitative and quantitative, to inform the development of an evidence-based program to improve attendance outcomes of Indigenous students in WA schools. Thank you for listening.